Welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard, or as the more popular channels say, welcome to Boomer Bongo Boulevard. I believe I said that right. But anyway, we're going to go back to normal English, and even if only 12 people, and plus Steve and
Yeah,
Hubert and Don.
yeah.
Uh,
I'm
plus,
doing the Gavin Newsom.
yeah, oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah,
Here we
you got
go.
to do that when you're.
I'm ready to get into politics now, baby. Woo, woo, woo. So anyway, Boomer Bongo Boulevard, Ron. I'm Mike just Mike, and along with me is my brother Ron just Ron, and we've got a great topic this week, and something that all boomers will identify with, and non-boomers need to learn about if they don't already. Frankenstein,
Frankenstein.
and we're not. We know that Frankenstein's the doctor.
Yeah.
We know that Frankenstein is the doctor, the scientist, the mad scientist who created the monster. And technically, it's Frankenstein's monster. But I think, don't you think, Ron, the
It's not like he's
movies?
got a name. It's not like he's Fred Monster or something, you know?
Well, yeah. In that monster
Horace. I'm going to
basically
call him
his,
Horace.
well, isn't that monster basically his son anyway? So they should have the same last name, right?
That's true. Exactly, yeah.
So Frankenstein. And the movies clearly indicated that they kind of were talking about the monster, the Frankenstein awakes, Frankenstein does this, Frankenstein does that, and they were not talking about the doctor. So I'd say
Well,
the
the
monster,
most obvious would be, um, let's see, well, the Bride of Frankenstein.
Bride of Frankenstein. Yeah, that that's
Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. I mean, come on.
yeah, they weren't all excited or frightened or intimidated by
Of the
meeting
doctor,
some
no.
doctor. What?
He called himself Frankenstein anyway, usually.
Frankenstein. So we're going to talk about Frankenstein. We talked about Tarzan last week, and you know, Ron, I'm going to do my Frankenstein yell on this, just like I did my Tarzan yell that blew out the microphone last time. Everything just broke out. I I've
The
told people,
Frankenstein yell.
people occasionally somebody will say something to me like, "Oh, are you yelling at me?" And I go, "Oh no, if I were yelling at you, you'd be crying right now."
Hey, your hair would be flying back.
Oh my gosh. You have no idea what yelling for me sounds like,
You would be
Woody.
looking like the guy in the Maxell tape commercial.
Oh man.
Where his glasses moving back and
Oh my goodness.
hair's going
Anyway,
back.
hey, let's get a little background on this thing. Started off with the Frankenstein concept, started off with a novel in 1818. It's been around a long time, by Mary Shelley, at least theoretically by Mary Shelley. There's some theories that maybe her husband wrote the novel, but Mary Shelley, the wife of Percy Shelley, the poet and all around artistic dude, and they had a bet, and a creative group, Byron, Shelley, and Keats were all in exile from England, and they were living in a little, I guess, what amounted to a commune. And they had a little contest to see who could write the most interesting or most frightening story. And the dark horse candidate, Mary Shelley, won with this novel she put together called Frankenstein, which, did you know it had an alternate title, Ron?
Let's see. The modern Prometheus, correct?
Prometheus, yeah. Very, man, you win Jeopardy for today. Yeah. Or the
No, I'm
modern.
not just beautiful.
Yes, that's the truth, if anything's ever been said. But Dr. Frankenstein in the novel, which, you know, we were talking about Tarzan last week, and Frankenstein really does the movie versus the novel. Uh, they parallel each other, Tarzan and Frankenstein, because in Tarzan, you see the movie and it's Tarzan loved Jane, Tarzan go now, you know, that kind of thing. And then you get in the novel, the actual Tarzan novels by Edgar Rice Burroughs, and you find out that pretty quickly Tarzan, who is a genius, uh, learned English flawlessly
Yeah.
and had an extensive vocabulary and spoke like I started to say a member of Congress, but we wouldn't want to lay that kind of insult on
No.
somebody. But spoke almost like a Shakespearean actor, and but they never got that across in the movies. And the Frankenstein monster was similar. The Frankenstein monster, the Boris Karloff monster in the movies, walked around very stiffly and could barely move, couldn't run at all.
Yeah.
And as a famous comic once said, if Frankenstein caught you, Bill Cosby said it. If Frankenstein caught you, you deserved it, which was kind of true.
For sure.
but in the novel, Frankenstein could run like a deer.
Yeah.
The Frankenstein monster was truly frightening.
Oh yeah.
He was like a zombie type character
Yeah.
in the movies in the Boris Karloff series of
And a
films.
lot more philosophical, which doesn't really work well with horror,
No,
generally. So I think they kind of took the right tack in the movie. You had to kind of change it a little, yeah, especially during the time when it was made, 1931. I mean,
yeah,
you know, and I was going to mention earlier when you were telling about the origins of the writing of the story. It had been a long time since I'd seen the Frankenstein, and they cover that in the movie, and I'd forgotten they do that. That's the way the
covered
movie starts out. Is
covered
them
covers
talking
what?
about having a contest and everything, and talking
Oh,
about what they wrote,
I
and
did
then
not
she
even
starts
recall that.
telling the story, and then the movie starts.
You know, the thing that I remember that translated from the novel to the movies. By the way, Universal Studios made a series of Frankenstein movies.
Oh
They
yeah,
had the first one in 1931, as you just mentioned,
yeah.
and went through all the way until 1948. So the series ran for 17
And
years.
I have them all. Yeah.
Wow. Well, I did a couple of
I bought
examples,
this a few
but
Halloweens ago, and it's got them all. Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein in 1935, Son of Frankenstein 1939, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, which
I
was the
saw that.
only time
Well,
Bela Lugosi, who was the original choice for the monster, played the monster,
well,
and House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, which also was a Frankenstein movie, and Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein. And in most of these, he was played by Lon Chaney Jr. a couple times, but then Glenn Strange, who was later the ran the Long Branch for Miss Kitty on
okay.
Gunsmoke, played the
Yeah, we've
monster.
talked about him before.
Yeah.
So, but the series of Universal movies that yeah, that ran the gamut from
Oh yeah.
comedy to but in that very first Frankenstein movie in 1931, which was just called simply Frankenstein,
Hmm.
they took several chapters from the novel and incorporated them into the
Yeah.
plot. And if I remember correctly, a movie critic for People magazine lost his job over
Yeah.
a Frankenstein review. When one of the later versions of Frankenstein came out, the critic went all on and on about how they had just stolen from that original movie, which wasn't very good in the first place, and it gave us an example scenes that the movie lifted from the novel and they kept in the more recent version of the movie. And basically, the guy didn't understand, had never read the novel, apparently didn't understand that the novel existed, and without doing any research at all, sat down to write a scathing review of a more recent Frankenstein movie, and lost his job over it. Ha 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 ha. So that's what you get. That that doesn't happen anymore. Journalists don't lose their jobs for not knowing what they're talking about.
They
But
really
that
don't.
was back in the day when a journalist might actually lose their job
Wow.
by
Amazing.
by not doing their homework. Now I think you get promoted and maybe even win a Pulitzer Prize.
I don't know if this was a scene that was taken from the novel, but this is a scene that gets a lot of play, people talking about, because it was one that was edited for most television viewings of the movie. it's the one where he runs across the little girl and they're tossing the
Right.
flowers into the water. Okay. In the original, which makes a lot more sense, the girl's tossing the flowers are floating, right? Okay.
Right.
And, and they're both laughing and clapping because she doesn't know any better. She's a little kid.
It's just a dude. Everybody's tall to her.
Yeah. And she's just playing with, the big guy that's acting like a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And she runs out of flowers, and
Mm-hmm.
Frankenstein reaches and grabs her and throws her into the water because he thinks it would be fun to see her float like the flower because
Right.
she's out of flowers. And he's like going, and he's like, oh, she can't swim. And he's like freaking out because she drowns and he's
Right.
tripping. He's like, he was really upset and he runs away. But they cut that part out and they make it where, she runs out of flowers and it just cuts to the scene of the guy bringing his dead daughter into town and stuff. And you're going like,
What happened?
the one where they showed it on television later, they cut out where Frankenstein throws her into the water. It just cuts to her dad carrying her into town dead, and it makes it worse because you're thinking, my God, what did he do to her?
Well,
instead of it being an innocent thing, which is the way it originally was intended.
I guess they were trying to get rid of that image because I remember seeing that scene when I was a kid, and there she's floating in the water.
Yeah.
And her dress is out around her in
like
a pretty much a circle like the petals from the flowers were. And you got the idea of what happened. Of course, when you read the novel, you knew what happened.
Yeah.
But by the way, novel is great. If anybody out there is looking for something to read that's classic, and I mean, it's great. It reads really well. It doesn't have that old time Charles Dickens feel where they spend 14 pages describing a crack in the sidewalk or anything.
Yeah, that's what that was gonna be my next question. It's like, does it actually not have that crap in it? Because that
it's
very insane when I'm
very readable. And for a while there, the novel Frankenstein was pretty popular to study in high schools. Of course, teachers are always looking for something that has literary value that their students can read and will be interested in reading. And I don't know if it's still as big as it was, but I'd say that, maybe 10 or 12 years there, Frankenstein was a very popular novel to be taught in high school. And the kids all generally liked it. The kids that like to read did not find it stale. And it's not stale. Man, I'm telling them the monster in the novel Frankenstein is truly frightening. He doesn't have a lot of morals. At all. He's amoral and kind of like Tarzan. Once again, Tarzan was amoral, and Tarzan just had loyalties, and he had strong loyalties, but that's what kept him on the somewhat straight and narrow. But Tarzan didn't mind killing anybody. Neither did the monster. Oh, but it was it's a really interesting, readable novel, and you will not. There's spoilers if you've seen the movies, but not enough to make you not want to read it. Anybody looking for something to read, that's a great one. Abbott and Costello, though, what a way to end that series, Ron. Hey, Ron, I got a statistic for you. You may already have this. Do you have any idea how many films have the character Frankenstein in them?
I'm just gonna take a stab and say 133.
I thought you had looked it up, you liar. No, 187 films.
I was in the hundreds, eh?
Yeah, maybe
you got to consider foreign-made films too. That's what I was kind of thinking.
Well, that and
cheapies,
and there are quite a few films where the monster just shows up as a peripheral character, and just for a few minutes. The Van Helsing movie, one of the Van Helsing movies I saw not too long ago. The Frankenstein monster shows up a little bit in it.
And of course, we have to mention Young Frankenstein.
Oh my gosh! Isn't that a category unto itself? Mel Brooks
with some of the gags in it, some of the most famous gags in that, and some of the most well-known stuff about Frankenstein actually comes from the second movie, which is Bride of Frankenstein, which a lot of people prefer, which I prefer it because it's a lot more up tempo and it moves a lot quicker because you hadn't got all all the prep time leading up to the monster. It's like you come right out of the gate, bang, you got monster. You know, you
Oh
got
yeah,
monster action going on,
yeah.
and it's got one of the weirdest scenes I think I've ever seen in any movie. That's just kind of inexplicable, doesn't really fit. I don't know what the hell it is or what they were thinking. But do you remember where the guy, the kind of the evil doctor that's, coercing Frankenstein into making the bride,
Right.
the weird, where he starts pulling out these little tiny people that I guess he's created or something? Or do you remember the scene I'm
No,
talking
I don't
about?
remember that. I don't
Yeah,
remember. It's been a while since I've seen that one.
he's got like a queen and a king and all this stuff. And he's got them under glass, and just for some reason he's got them on a table, and he's just like screwing with them. And he's like these little tiny people.
Huh.
It's just he pulls them out and while he's talking about something else, and they're just like doing this kind of comedic weird crap, and it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't pertain to anything they're talking about, or it's just one of the weirdest things you've ever seen in your life.
And there's nothing like that in the Frankenstein novel.
Yeah,
So
it's just
that's
it's
that is
really really
amazing.
odd, you know.
The the thing that I wanted to mention, make sure we mentioned, was of course Elsa Lanchester
Mm-hmm.
played the Bride of Frankenstein. Actually, she had two roles in the movie, but the Bride of Frankenstein is what she played, and she for years after that developed into a well-known and always at work character actress, right way up into the 60s. And
Wow.
and I just I mean you would recognize her if you saw Bride of Frankenstein like I did when I was a kid, and then you're
Mhm.
watching like the Patty Duke show or something, and
Yeah.
she plays a college professor, and you're like, that's the Bride of Frankenstein lady.
Yeah.
And boy, they she didn't have much of an ego, did she? They just
No,
made her
really.
horrifying, and she went for it anyway
It was
because she
great.
needed a
The
paycheck,
bird
I guess.
like movement. She had all the that was like and then the
Yeah,
scream and
yeah. Actually, she kind of did a better job than Boris Karloff did
yeah,
as far as depicting a recently animated body.
yeah,
It was not bad. Although she didn't have the all sewn up look. They tried to make her good looking. The
yeah.
doctors did, but they she was still horrifying. And isn't that kind of a metaphor for life? The monsters thinks he's getting fixed up,
Yeah.
and he's all excited, and then they show him who they fixed him up with, and he's just like, ah. And how does that make her feel? How tragic. How tragic. She's and
And
that
of
that,
course,
that gets
he has
played
his
out every
famous
day.
line, we belong dead. But of course, they don't die.
Oh, but yeah, hey, going back to Young Frankenstein, I remember going to see that in an old theater, and everybody had been talking. I was in
Yeah.
college, and everybody had been talking about it. The movie, by the way, 1974. So I was right in the middle of going to college, and went to the old theater. And I'm thinking, well, I wonder if this is going to be any good because comedies are either good or they
Yeah.
aren't. They either make it or they just fall flat. And it comes on, and it's in black and white, and I knew it was a winner right there. I mean, it's just like the old Frankenstein and most of the movies in that series, all of them I think were in black and white, and you go black and white, oh, they get it, and it
Yeah.
just Madeline, and what a lineup: Marty
On
Feldman, Madeline Kahn, um, who was
Marty Feldman's my favorite.
Marty Feldman? Oh my God!
Oh, and he has one of the greatest ad lib lines ever in that movie. Yeah, I mean it is so funny. They had to use it because it was so great. But you can see Madeline Kahn and Gene Wilder starting to crack up
Uh-huh.
because it's like when Madeline Kahn first shows up and he goes um, and Gene Wilder tells him, he goes, would you mind taking the bags? And he goes, you take the bag and I'll take the one in a toy bin. And then goes, rawr, 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 goes, rawr,
Madeline Kahn, of
and starts
course.
trying to bite her hand and all this stuff.
Madeline Kahn, of course, playing the Bride of Frankenstein in the Young Frankenstein. And hey, we can't forget Peter Boyle, who
Yes.
just killed it as a Frankenstein monster and managed to dance in those they use the stacked shoes, which is The real reason that Frankenstein moves so stiffly is they put him on these foot high stacked shoes so that he would be
And they
tall
put
like a
metal
monster.
rods down his legs too to stiffen him
Oh
up
man,
more.
what talent! Of course, Peter Boyle later played the dad in Everybody Loves Raymond.
And
So
on a Halloween
what an
episode,
actor!
what did he dress as? Do you remember? Of course, he was Frankenstein.
You got to do that. You got to pay
He had
tribute
they
to that.
had to put him in the Frankenstein mask. They had to. That was
Um,
the perfect callback. But it was like,
the
the famous scene where he and Gene Wilder are doing the little soft shoe thing and doing, putting on rich, uh, Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks got in a huge fight about that scene.
oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Mel Brooks was like, he didn't like it. And Gene Wilder was like, he was going to quit over it.
Oh, really?
Because they wrote that together. They both wrote that movie. Gene
Wow.
Wilder wrote most of it, and Gene Wilder was just like went down the mat. He was like, if you don't put that in, I quit. He said that's the best scene in the movie.
Sue
You're
me.
not taking it out.
Sue me.
Period.
I don't.
And it
Not
was
started.
one of those memorable scenes of the whole movie. Oh, and Gene Hackman like begged to be in the movie, and they made him the old blind man, and the.
He would have made a pretty good Frankenstein's monster, I think.
Yeah.
He
But
kind of
Gene
has that.
wanted to be in that movie so bad because he'd never gotten to do comedy, and he really wanted to do comedy. And he was like, you don't even have to pay me. He said, don't pay me. Don't put me in the credits, nothing. I just want to do it, And that's one of the best scenes in the movie, where he's the old blind fiddler in the woods,
Do you remember Frankenstein Jr. and the Impossibles?
Oh, I was going to bring that up, man. That's one of my old favorite cartoons.
Cartoon series, yeah.
Oh, let's go,
Except,
Buzz.
am I wrong? In that cartoon series, couldn't the monster fly?
Yeah. And Buzz was always sitting on his shoulder right there, Buzz Conroy. Yeah. And his dad, Professor Conroy, who built Frankenstein Jr., and their headquarters was in that big dome telescope, and it would come up and him and Frankie would fly off, and Frankenstein Jr., had that, had his cape, that was, of course, ragged on the end, because, Frankenstein has to have all the stuff ragged,
Why wouldn't the Frankenstein monster, all those scars he had, why wouldn't they heal up? Because he had all these superpowers. His brain was super powerful. He was super strong. He was super fast. I guess because he was the lightning bolt that invigorated him, that gave him life. Maybe, gave him basically superpowers. But he wouldn't heal up. I guess a good looking Frankenstein just kills the whole movie, because then all the women are chasing him and everybody likes him,
No, maybe he's like Deadpool. Deadpool's scars never heal.
Yeah, I guess so. The thing that just hit me though is, isn't it kind of like the Frankenstein movie is the Frankenstein character is even more relevant now than he used to be, because and everybody knows this is the truth. A guy goes somewhere now and tries to talk to some woman he doesn't know, or meet somebody somewhere, and he, if he's ugly, he gets labeled a creep.
Yeah.
But if he's good looking, he can say whatever he wants to, and isn't he cute? Wouldn't that have been the case with Frankenstein? If his scars had healed up, all the women would have been. Oh, I know he killed a couple of little kids, but isn't he cute? Gosh, and I know he's a murderer, but gosh, he's got such a twinkle in his eye.
They did an SNL sketch one time when Tom Brady was the host of Saturday Night Live, covering that exact same thing. That it was like a PSA for sexual harassment in the office. And like one of the regular guys came up and he would say something and they were like, "Oh, you creep," and get off that. And then Tom Brady comes up and says something like way worse, and they're like,
"Yeah, yeah." Oh, you're
and
so
even
cute.
At the end, he's like, this guy comes up and says, "Oh, you got a nice dress on today," and it kept getting worse and worse. And in the final scene, he comes up. Tom Brady literally walks up with his shirt and tie in his underwear and his tighty whitey. He walks up and goes, "Hey, you're looking great today," and they're going like, "Oh, Tom."
Thank you. He talked to me. Talked to me. Oh, hooray. Man, I'll tell you, Ron. we've covered two topics here in the last 2 weeks, and of course, just on a surface way, but once again, they're pretty similar.
Yeah,
The
literary
Tarzan,
stuff too. Yeah, well,
oh,
we're kind
Tarzan.
of in a literary thing here.
Well, hey, Tarzan. Look at Tarzan's example of the good-looking guy who walks around wearing a loincloth, and
Yeah.
James just falls all over him. And if
Oh
he'd
yeah.
been Frankenstein, she'd have been running up with everybody else, into the woods. Help,
Yeah, he
help
hangs out
us!
with apes. He's dirty,
Oh yeah,
nasty words.
yeah.
Hey,
Hangs
he
out,
still gets the woman, man.
hangs out with a gorilla. Yeah, he hangs out with gorillas. Hey, look, here's my family. And
Poor old Frankenstein. He has to grab the woman, they faint. When he goes off with them.
oh yeah, can't even get him to talk to him or
Yeah.
anything. He didn't get a chance to show him, how strong he is and all the other stuff he can do. But Tarzan does, because Tarzan was a pretty good-looking dude.
And the thing is, we were talking about how Tarzan kind of evolved over the years and everything. It's just like Frankenstein hasn't really evolved because the best ones are still the movies that are almost 100 years old.
Yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah.
People are trying to do it, and they're just terrible.
Well,
They're awful.
the closest thing I saw, and this wasn't really a take on Frankenstein, but it was the same idea, was some made-for-TV movie.
Yeah.
When, I don't know, quite a few years ago. And it was about this woman, this very wealthy woman who'd had her son frozen when he died, hoping to revive him.
Yeah.
And now it's 30 years later, and his mom is just ancient. She's in her 90s, and the technology exists in the film of being able to revive this long lost son. So they revive him, and he comes back to life. Now he's a pretty good looking dude, but it turns out he has no soul. His soul went to heaven. His soul went into the afterlife, and the body was reanimated without a soul. And he's this, once again, this amoral character who.
So he's evil as hell. Yeah.
Oh, well, he's not even evil. He's like Tarzan. He's like Frankenstein. He's doing whatever gets him through the day.
Yeah.
If he gets caught stealing something, he just kills whoever saw him do the stealing.
Yeah. Oh well.
He goes, and but he got away with a lot of it because he was a good-looking guy, and that's kind of the combination of Tarzan and Frankenstein.
Gets away with anybody that catches him or whatever. Has to kill whoever catches him or whatever. It reminded me of if you hadn't ever seen the show. I watched all this when I had Max. It's a show called Barry. It's got written and conceived and starring this guy Bill Hader that was on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
Great
I never
show.
saw that.
If you ever get a chance to watch it, Barry is what it's called.
Yeah.
But anyway, he's like he's an assassin. That's what he is.
Yeah.
And he decides he wants to become an actor. It's got Henry Winkler in it as well. It's a great show.
Yeah, I think I did see that. And I saw parts of it.
And it's so funny. It's like every time somebody kind of starting to figure out who he is and what he really is,
he's like,
he's trying to be a nice guy and he's trying to go straight, and he's just like, oh no, oh please don't say that, oh please don't say that, because when he's saying that, you're going like, he's gonna have to kill you. And he just, he's like, come on, man. I don't want to kill you. That's kind of what he's saying. Please don't let me kill you.
Yeah, I remember that.
He ends up having to keep killing people.
Hey, let's face it. Amoral characters are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Aren't a lot of the films where the bad guys are recruited to help do some noble thing? They go into a prison and get some guys out, and there's any number of movies like that. And those guys are not great guys, but they want to get out of prison, so they do what they have to do. And you're just looking for an excuse to pull for them. And they do it in comic books all the time. They take this
just
evil
for a little
villain.
preview for next week. What we'll be talking about. James Bond is like that.
James Bond, License to Kill,
is a horrible human being.
Oh, he is.
He does. But he kind of has to be to do what he does.
I guess he's loyal to the Queen, though. That's what kept him.
He does his job. He's honed in and does his job, and whatever he's like. I'm here. Here's A. Here's B. Whatever's in between here, so be it.
Well,
You
Ron,
know?
as a cultural figure, I got to tell you, according to my statistics, Frankenstein's a bigger cultural figure than Tarzan because 187 films, as we said before.
Wow.
Tarzan, 50.
Yeah.
187 to 50. So Tarzan lost. If this was a basketball game, it'd be humiliating. 187 to 50. The Golden State Warriors 187. The Knicks 50.
Absolutely.
Uh, that's just I don't know what I guess that kind of sums it up really. And and um, and it kind of fun thing to talk about. If you once again, if you're a reader, revisit or not or visit the Tarzan novels and the Frankenstein novel, at least the first Tarzan novel and the first Frankenstein novel. And if you want to go back to some old classic black and white movies that were popular with the boomers, got a whole series of Frankenstein movies. Several of them are excellent. And then on the going back a week, you've got Johnny Weissmuller's
Well,
Tarzan movies that are definitely worth watching. So
yeah,
we've put a lot on your plate if you're interested in
I think
entertainment.
so.
And we have not had a song of the week yet, but this one, golly, could it be any easier?
Exactly.
Edgar Winter.
Frankenstein.
Oh man. Dun, 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 dun. Edgar Winter Group instrumental song, 1972, and it was number one for 1 week. And
Oh, wow.
not that many instrumental songs become number one, so a unique song and really the the cornerstone of Edgar Winter's reputation in the music business. That albino guitarist psychopath Edgar Winter. He, who kind of looked like he was created in a laboratory.
Yeah.
We forgot to put in the tincture of skin color. He's just opaque. We have an
The
opaque
pigment.
here.
We forgot the pigment.
Yes, we left him out. Oh. So anyway, I guess we're finishing it up. So what? Hey, Ron, Boomer Bongo Boulevard, wrap it up again. Hey, don't forget to hit that like button. I think we would like to have more people notified and notifications and all that. Hit all that so that people can hear us pontificate.
Because
Because
our
I
egos
think
aren't nearly big enough yet. We need
oh,
to
I know. Hey,
bang
and
them.
Ron, I think we're getting downright philosophical and interesting. Saying we're sociologists and we're talking about sociology. We're talking about philosophy. We're talking
I
about
think we're
good
funny
versus
as
evil.
hell, too.
Hey, there's not a lot of content like we've got on the internet, as far as I can tell.
I don't think so.